and you have rewards that come off of that. And if you don't do that, well, then you have no room to complain. It's like I mentor guys all the time, and I got a guy right now who's like in this situation where he's running this guy's gym who's not paying him because the guy's literally barely covering bills, and he needs to pay his own rent and do his own stuff. And I'm like, look, you have two real choices. You can continue to work for this guy and continue to not probably get paid and be miserable, or you can tell him you're going to walk away, get another job. Or the third, which, could be a part of the second, is I need ownership in this place. Yeah. I need to be paid on a weekly basis. You need to step back. Let me take control of this because you've run this into the ground. And I go back to the first option, and I'm like, if you choose to stay in the first option, I don't ever want to fucking hear you complain again.
Welcome to another episode of Barbell Business. I'm AJ Roberts, and alongside me is Mike Bledsoe, Doug Larson. And today's guest is author of Unbreakable Runner, Power, Speed, Endurance, and founder of CrossFit Endurance and the company 3Fuel, Mr. Brian Mackenzie. Brian, how you doing?
Hola. Thank you for having me.
Got a lot going on,
man.
Did
you memorize that?
I know. That was like
there's
like
actually
5 things
more,
in a row you
but
had to memorize.
there's actually more. I was like, just leave it at that.
Yeah. I finally got something right.
Yeah. No, you nailed that.
Yeah, you crushed that. Mike tries to memorize like 8 things like that, and it doesn't work.
I don't memorize anything ever.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I got it written on the board behind you.
Oh,
well done. He's
was
cheating.
that a y'all from an Englishman?
Well, it started. He started hanging out with us.
I know.
And now, like, he never said it before. I'm like, oh, his accent is getting more and more mutt-like.
Yeah.
He just keeps on adding more shit
I got to
in.
hire a speech therapist, I think. Okay. Hey,
Just try to squeeze one wanker in the rest of the show. That's the best English term.
So, well, we were hanging out with Brian this week at Barbell Mastermind, and he had a phrase that keep coming over, a phrase that he keeps saying over and over, and we wanted to expand upon about the show. But he basically said that, he's in the business of failing. And it was an interesting terminology for me to hear because we've talked about it before. We just did an episode on our biggest failures. And so we figured we'd drill Brian a little bit on what he means by that and how that has, shaped his business and what he's developed up until this point. So, Brian, you were saying at the mastermind, you're not in the game of winning, you're in the game of failing. And I think a lot of people might, when they first hear that, misunderstand it. So maybe you can expand upon what you mean by that phrase.
Certainly. I think, for a lot of people will be confused to that. I think there's also a crowd that's like, yeah, good, you should fail. Like, we got a drone going on over there?
The dude's got a chainsaw next to him.
Should we pause this and then see if people can hear this?
In my experience as a coach and even as a trainer, I caught on to a few things, and I didn't necessarily always catch on to those as an athlete, even though they were very paramount as an athlete. I was pretty successful as a swimmer and playing water polo. I was very successful even younger than that when I played soccer, and I played on club teams. I traveled everywhere. I did a lot of stuff, but the fact is that every one of the things that I did was literally a game of failure because it was like, okay, I was good at it, we could win at it, but it wasn't always winning. It was most of the time screwing something up or not getting it. I actually, when I was younger, and I think this is the best way I can articulate this, is I'm right-sided. So right-handed, right leg. I changed my legs. I literally focused on one leg for an entire season when I was like 10 years old and became ambidextrous with my legs. And the reason was because my coach, I wanted to stay up at left wing, at forward. And the only way that was going to happen is if I had a left foot to either shoot with or cross the ball with. And so that was the deal. And at 10 years old, I kind of mapped that one out. Well, then come into water polo, and I guarded set, which was 2 meters, which is you guard the big guy in the middle, and you get your ass kicked a lot. And there was a kid who showed up one year that we were playing against, and he was literally ambidextrous with both arms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that ended the fucking that just ruined me. Like, because I just
by the way,
couldn't figure
water
out.
polo is like one of the nastiest sports.
Yeah.
Very nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nasty. It fit perfect.
There's a lot that goes on under the water.
Yeah, that's the irony. That's the irony of the whole thing, was that it was literally like I played soccer until I became so aggressive in soccer that I was literally booted. And then the swimming coaches knew water polo coaches, and they're like, "Hey, there's this kid," and it's like, so I got into water polo, and that was what happened. And so I guarded 2 meters, and I wasn't exactly the biggest guy, but I was aggressive enough to be able to handle guys at set. And that when that kid, the guy's name was Wolf Weigo. I mean, I remember him like it was yesterday, and this is back like early high school, and I was like, wow, how do you do that? And it's like, you're in a game, it's not about winning. Like, if you go to switch hands right now and were to shut down your right hand, you are going to make a ton of mistakes at doing this stuff. So lo and behold, I've had my athletic career. I've done things. I did the ultra running thing, did triathlon. Most of the stuff I did was all about failure. It was like, hey, does this work? How much does this work? When do I hit my walls? When do I, even if I go on a 10-mile run, my first time going out on a 10-mile run, I did not get the run done. Like, I literally probably walked a lot of it, and it was like, okay, now I know I can go out and do this, and I can progress for the next time. And it's a progression, and this is like any musical instrument. Anybody who sends their kid to learn an instrument, it's hey, you're going to get an instructor, and you're going to learn how to play this, and there's going to be a lot of failure involved in that. You're not going to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, you're not failing necessarily because you're bad at these things. You're failing because you're experimenting and trying something new, and or you're failing because you're pushing yourself. You're not doing something you can do. You're doing something you aren't sure you can do, and sometimes you get it, and a lot of times you don't. But eventually you get better.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting to me, and wondering, when you're a kid, most people, when they have failure as a kid, they don't see it as a lesson. And clearly you saw each failure as a lesson. You looked at what happened, you said, okay, what do I need to change? And you move forward. But most kids don't. Was there someone who kind of guided that, or was it just this internal thing that you knew that you could just fix what went wrong and get better?
It was more of an internal thing. I picked up a skateboard when skateboarding wasn't cool. I picked up BMX riding before, when I was a kid. It was like a lot of us did that, but I just chased those things and tried to get as good as I could, and I got fairly decent at them. Skateboarding, I was decent at street. I sucked at ramp, but I just didn't do the ramp enough. I had plenty of friends, though, that I observed, and I literally grew up in the revolution of skateboarding in Southern California, where guys like Tony Hawk, a lot of world-class skateboarders were doing vert down the street from my house, and we had the only guy who had a 12-foot ramp anywhere around, and it had 1.5 feet of vert, and everybody would come over, and I would sit there and watch these guys, and it was like, fuck, and they would eat shit.
I was going to say, there's a lot of failure.
And there's just a ton of failure happening at that.
It's very obvious failure, too.
Yes.
It's like, when you fucked up.
It's a slap. Oh, call the ambulance.
That's right.
But you pick up on this stuff, and it's like I didn't realize any of this really had made sense or resonated until I actually got to a point where I was actually running a business of some sort. And I'm like, oh, okay. And to be totally honest, it's really just hit me in the last year of what the game I've been in. And the game has literally been failure. I am doing something till I break it or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then I want to make it better and I want to fix it. Or if it's just not working at all, hey, it's time to get rid of that. Let's ditch that. Let's ditch what we're doing with that, and let's try something new. And
the great part about business is you only have to be right a couple of times.
Exactly.
Maybe even once.
Exactly.
You be right one time, wrong 1,000 times, and that one right could carry you the rest of your life.
Yes.
You want to fail. It's almost the quicker you fail, the better.
Yes. Well, let's just take CrossFit endurance, for instance. I was I was traditional long, slow distance guy when I got into endurance. And I stayed there for quite a while, for probably 4 or 5 years. Then one of my mentors was like, I had approached him, who I had learned a lot of movement principles from, but I had approached him about some training physiologically for an event. And it just happened to be like a 200-mile run. And I didn't pull it off, but I got close enough.
Distance.
Yeah, but it was it it was a radical change from what it was I knew. And the moment I got involved, it was literally the first week he sent me training, and I'm like, I want to run 200 miles. I don't know that 10 kilometers this weekend is going to be enough for that. And he's like, am I the coach or are you the coach? And that's literally what the fuck Romanoff would say to me. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'll play along. And within 3 weeks, I'm running faster than I've ever run in my life. And I'm running, and I can run long. And next thing I know, 3 months from then, I'm running distances I've never run before, better than I've run before. And it was the ability to listen and be able to see something that wasn't really working for me, to transition and be open-minded enough to try something else out and see where it worked. And so that's where the manifestation of what we started to mold CrossFit Endurance came into. Then, I was at the point where I wanted to figure out strength and conditioning for endurance sports. I had already tried to do that stuff, and we found that lifting heavy and running long was not a viable thing to do. You were just too tore up. That said, it's like we played in the kettlebell. I played in the kettlebell world forever. Like, oh, we're going to do kettlebell stuff and run intervals. And that was cool, and it had results, but it wasn't the best results we were getting. And it just kept materializing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we've got, we know we need some, from a general standpoint, it's like you look at, physiology, and if we've got shorter intervals, which are lowered in your glycolytic or phosphagen pathway, then you've got like your lactate system, okay? Then you've got your real oxidative training. It's like, look, there should at least be this setup every week for a runner or an endurance athlete, but that is not what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And so we started really playing with that stuff, and it was very similar to the stuff I was doing with Romanoff, but it ended up melding into something different, and then we're playing with strength and conditioning a lot, and all of a sudden I'm reading about this, movement of CrossFit online, and I'm like, that's kind of crazy. Like, maybe I should go run on the treadmill for a quarter mile, try to do 50 pull-ups, run on the treadmill, then do 50 push-ups, and the whole thing. And I'm like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I've got rhabdo one day, I wait a week, I'm like, at any rate, we figured out how to mesh that, and lo and behold, we've got something. But it wasn't like, we just went and something just came into existence.
How long did it take? I mean, I think you're most well known for CrossFit Endurance.
Yeah.
Possibly. Like, how long did it take where the experimenting began to where you got there?
2005 was when I found CrossFit. 2004 was when we were playing with strength and conditioning and a shorter distance stuff. So, I guess you could say in 2004-ish, a lot of the experimentation was beginning, especially with myself. 2005, I had opened my own facility. I had started bringing in exercise physiologists to start testing people, to start seeing what was happening on a physiological level, where they told me we were going to kill people, and I was like, no, we're going to pay attention. And we didn't kill anybody. They were actually baffled at what.
Nobody died.
No, nobody died. I was actually the only one coming close to that, and that was like when we were trying to figure out doing a Tabata run on a treadmill at a 12% grade, which started at a 15% grade. I almost got tossed off and died and whatever. But it was fun. Like, we would take things to literally, we could just see the hole closing or blacking out, just starting to come in, and it was just like, oh, fuck, here we go. And then just coming off of it and being okay. But we started challenging everything back in about 2005, and then that was when I actually started playing with CrossFit. 2007 was the first seminar, but I do believe that there was a lot of very fortunate places I was in, but the only reason I was in those places was because I was actually willing to experiment enough to get myself in a position to talk to people who were out there, like a Greg Glassman, who were changing things. Yeah. And I had something viable to say, hey, I think I can help out with some stuff that you guys may be missing. And he was just like, dude, you have piqued my interest. Please come up to Santa Cruz and give me your information, and let's see what we can do.
What were the first seminars like?
Oh,
Well,
dude.
yeah, because
Yeah,
you said
yeah.
that you're actually terrified of public speaking.
I'm no longer terrified of it. I am definitely. It's not my favorite thing to do. I don't like getting up and being a center of attention type of thing, even though it can be fun at times. I'm honest. It can be fun, but it literally is. I don't want to be some center of attention. I'm surrounded by a lot of greatness, especially here. It's like, you guys have done a shit ton. We're standing next to a world record holder. We've got two guys that have started a business that is like, and a guy holding the camera who's part of that business that has blown up, and people really are fanatical about what you guys are doing, as they should be, But the first seminars were terrible because I was terrified and I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Yeah.
Reality hit me when Greg was like, come up and speak, and I was like, whoa. What do you mean speak? So I had to present information. The data I had collected and what I was going to do, I had to put out in front of everybody, and I was terrified when I did it. I did a few level ones where I would be the guy who would show up at 7 a.m. on Sundays, and it was free for everybody from the seminar to come. And then the seminar started at 9. So I had a 2-hour window to present all my information and show people what running mechanics were. And after 3 seminars, Greg was like, I want you to start a course for us and do it. And I was like, okay. And we did one, and that was the one where he literally was he had to walk out because I was just flailing kind of all over the place. And he was like, he actually just told me last week, he was like, don't take that personally that I walked out. It was just like, you're learning to swim for the first time, and I got to let you do it on your own, and I did it, and I've gotten pretty damn good at it. And, we've developed a course where we have coach. I don't have to do many of these things.
Yeah, you got a whole team.
Yeah, we've got a whole team at this point.
And you said something that's interesting too, like you with your team, like what you didn't want to happen was them just become you in their body. And you've really allowed them to take the seminar and make a piece of them.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the important. I think that's really important because and there's many ways of doing it, and like the level 1 really focuses on the structure of the information Greg originally created, and we want that information going out all the time. And it's not that
it's a system.
It is an absolute system,
100%.
And we have a minor system in there, but I've also encouraged all of our coaches that look, you don't need to be me. You need to be you, and you need to tie yourself to this information, which is also why when we have people approach us about interning, it's like, how many courses? They have to mandatory do 2 courses of the CrossFit Endurance Seminar. Then it's what's your resume look like, and it doesn't have to be some massive resume, but how have you applied this anywhere in your training or anybody else's training is what we're really looking for. And so you have an understanding of
this
it.
and
and I'm not looking
for
for you to have the same results I had, or even I'm actually looking for you to have tweaked some things yourself and done some things yourself. And because that's important to me that people are actually experimenting things like that, because I've run into roadblocks with a lot of people who I've worked with in the past who were like, no, I want you doing it the way I showed you. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily how the world works. Like, you're supposed to get to a certain level, and then that allows everybody else to start creating on another level. And I think I finally come to terms with myself and what I'm here and supposed to do, and create something where other people can kind of leverage what I've done and push even further and be better at what I've done.
Leaves room for innovation.
Absolutely, 100%.
And you don't have to be the innovator.
Nope. I already innovated. I already did something. I've done it, and that doesn't mean that's the only thing I'm going to innovate on. But I'm good with that.
Yeah.
It's nice that it takes the burden off of you. Like now that you're giving it out to these other coaches, you can move on to a new project. You got your 3 full thing. You got like the 8 things that AJ said at the very beginning of the show, and you don't have to evolve the system anymore. You have people to do that for you. And as a business owner, that's what you should be doing. I think that's where a lot of CrossFit coaches specifically fall short, is that they're not necessarily business people. They're good trainers, and they're so emotionally attached to the training at the gym that they never want to give anything away, and then they have a hard time growing because they got their hands in too many things too deep.
Yeah, they, and this is something I've done, and I shared a lot of this this last week, was, where I've owned gyms. I've failed at gyms. I've given gyms away. I've literally, I'm like, hey, I screwed up here. I shouldn't, I'm not running this thing well enough, or we're not a better combination. I should step away from this. And, there's a lot of stuff where I see owners who are so hell-bent on being a part and controlling something that they're not really good at. And they don't know when to step away or when to bring somebody in, which is what's really interesting about guys like you. I'm a number of years older than all of you guys, but not by a lot. But the fact is being your age,
just a decade,
whatever. But the fact is you've all realized you guys are like, look, I'm good at this. Yeah. Doug is good at this. Chris is good at this. CTP is good at this, and AJ is phenomenal over here. And it's like, we're all going to stick to what we're really good at so that
how did he get phenomenal?
Sorry. You're a god, bro. Don't. But the point is that you guys have recognized that stuff, and it is inspirational in the fact that it's like, look, I've made my own mistakes where I can come in and see this. I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I'm not threatened by that. I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, fuck, I need to do that. And so you go in and you do it, and you surround yourself with people that are doing stuff that are better than you are, and you start implementing and you start doing it, and you have rewards that come off of that. And if you don't do that, well, then you have no room to complain. It's like I mentor guys all the time, and I got a guy right now who's like in this situation where he's running this guy's gym who's not paying him because the guy's literally barely covering bills, and he needs to pay his own rent and do his own stuff. And I'm like, look, you have two real choices. You can continue to work for this guy and continue to not probably get paid and be miserable, or you can tell him you're going to walk away, get another job. Or the third, which, could be a part of the second, is I need ownership in this place. I need to be paid on a weekly basis. You need to step back. Let me take control of this because you've run this into the ground. And I go back to the first option, and I'm like, if you choose to stay in the first option, I don't ever want to fucking hear you complain again. Yeah. Because you are choosing your misery. Yeah. That's it. So don't, and I've done this with a ton of different situations with people who I've mentored and worked with, and it's just getting people to that level of understanding. And it brings me myself to that conclusion as well, as like, where my wife will be like, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, why are you doing it?
I always say,
you're like, damn, that's what I say to people.
So many people put like imaginary handcuffs on them, and they believe like I have to show up to work at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
What do you mean you have to? Well, if I'm not there, they'll get upset. Who will get upset? And if they do get upset, like, is it that bad of it? Like, if you wanted to take a day off, like, usually nothing happens. Like, if people call in sick, people are like, oh, cool. And so people create all these, like, rules and boundaries, and they don't realize that, like, they could quit their job and there's another place that's hiring down the road, or they could start something on their own. And I think that we'll see more and more people choosing stuff. And that's one thing that we really hope with the community that people realize is, like, to be involved in the fitness community nowadays, you don't have to have a gym. Like, there is so many different companies that are popping up and opportunities for people, and kind of segues into, like, what I wanted to ask you about was, where did 3 Fuel come from? And why go into that supplement world when, I mean, it's a tough world to go in and to play in. And I'm just curious of, like, what drove you to be like, you know what, we need to compete in this space and create something that people are going to, you know, jump on and buy.
It was never about wanting to compete in the market, but, I was helping a company develop a product for endurance athletes because we were a fringe group of endurance athletes where they were eating like paleo, and they were like trying not to feed themselves with Gatorade or whatever sugar drink they could on while they trained. So we were developing this, and this is back in the days when I was like literally hell-bent to believe we could survive without carbohydrates. And so we were developing a product that had literally only protein and medium chain fats in it, and it had some other stuff in it. And we would get out at about 2 hours, and we just kept testing, and then we would just just hit the floor, dude. And we tried as long as we could to maintain the relationship, but they wanted to go to market with a product that we didn't really believe in. And they make a shit ton of great products. I'm not going to name the company or anything, but they make a great products with what everything else they do. But this product in particular was not something I could stand by. So we separated. And as I separated, somebody reached out to me who I knew in the industry, and He was somebody who had fed me information all the time, just about supplements and people and things. And he asked me to try this carbohydrate, and I said that, hey, you know how I feel about that. It's almost like
Carbs,
poison, right?
No one needs carbs.
Yeah, and so I got this package that looked like cocaine sent out
Weird.
to me.
I got the same one at my house.
Right?
Striking
And
resemblance.
so we got this carbohydrate, and I started playing around with this carbohydrate that's a resistant starch that was in the bodybuilding world forever, and bodybuilders would use it. And we started looking at resistant starches, and we came to my buddy came to this conclusion that, look, if bodybuilders can use this stuff at night and turn up their thermogenics and literally start fat burning at a level that we just have yet to see off of a carbohydrate, and then start a glucose drip about 3 hours later, there's got to be something to this, and put it in endurance sports.
You gotta be careful. That CrossFit bodybuilding is still
Right. Right. So I started taking this stuff, and just the carbohydrate alone, I couldn't run out of energy. So then we tried to figure out a protein source, where we found the whey hydroxylate, which was grass-fed out of Ireland. It was the fastest absorbing product we could get. It was the cleanest protein we could get. Anybody who had any issues at all, even with grass-fed proteins, really was not having it with this isolate, because it was an isolate which had been hydrolyzed. So we then added the medium chain fats, because we knew medium chain fats could be a pretty quick fuel source. And by the time that fuel source tapped out, you were already revving pretty high with the whole product.
Yeah.
So I had made a product literally for myself and a few people who were around me for us to play with. And then people at seminars would literally ask us, well, what do we use? Because we would do a fueling lecture, and hey, you're going to need to play with things, this and that. Maybe maybe sugar is going to work for you, so you need to know which sugars and how they work, and different carbohydrates, maltodextrins, dextrose, whatever. That said, they I was like, well, or you could be like me, and you can research and start to bring in your own stuff in bulk and do it yourself. And people are like, well, could we just buy some off of you? And I'm like, nah, I'm not selling it. After about 3 courses, I'm like, fuck, we just need to sell this stuff.
Yeah, when the demand's there, it's kind of
I think that's the
kinda-
best. Those are the best products. Like, you go out there and say, hey, is this what I like to do? And people are asking for it. That's the right time. I think too many people create a product, or they have an idea and they think it's a great idea.
Yes.
But people aren't asking for it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, man, I can't figure out why I can't get this off the ground.
Yeah.
That's one thing
Yeah.
you got. I noticed last year. I don't know when you guys sent it out, but you surveyed your list. In the business world, it's what we tell people to do all the time. Don't create something first before you know there's a demand. Right? Find the demand, and then
If you
create
want to do it
something
for
for
business.
it. And
Yeah.
like you guys did that with the list last year, and they told you what they wanted, and hence that's what products you guys have come out with moving forward.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
survey our people all the time and get good feedback, and then make products based off it. And a lot of times, we'll even sell something first to make sure that people want it, because a lot of people say they want something and
Yeah.
then they won't buy it.
A check in
So
the
we'll-
box is not the same as paying money.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
sell something first, and then people will buy it, and then we'll have it mapped out and whatnot. But we won't go through the process of spending the time to make it unless people actually want it, and then we'll go make it.
Yeah, and now with crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter and stuff
A lot
like
of people
that,
do that, by the way.
yeah.
Like, you can just come up with an idea. You don't have to take that risk first. There's a lot of risk reversal now in launching products and things like that, and creating, even equipment. Like, a lot of people have an idea for a piece of equipment and they don't think it through, but you can test it on crowdfund before you go and spend all the money. Same with T-shirts too. Like, people can do like Teespring and places like that, just on T-shirt ideas. There are a lot of T-shirt companies. People get these cool names, and
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, I'm gonna create a T-shirt company, and then they launch and they get sell 3 T-shirts. And it's but they got 50 sitting there because they had to do a run with the printer. So
Durkin.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
We know somebody who's done that.
I'm just surprised you don't have the shirt
Dude,
on.
that's my favorite. I actually have more than one.
I know, you've told me that.
Yeah.
And I've
so
literally
you don't
seen
think I'm
you
walking around dirty.
every other day. You're in a Durkin shirt.
But it's so
Hey,
comfortable, man.
you should-
and it
you
looks
should
good.
wear it.
It's
And it's
very
you.
complimentary colors.
It's you.
Yeah. All right, so we have a lot of gym owners that listen to this.
Yeah.
What are some big mistakes you made with gyms? I mean, you've had gyms, and you said that you experienced some type of failure and enough to where, or maybe discomfort to where you didn't want to do it anymore. Or,
I think the biggest is thinking you need to work 14, 16-hour days and be there and doing everything. If you're doing that, you're already off the cliff. Like you're heading down a place where you're not going to really probably get out of. So cutting that
not
out,
sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable at all. And I can't even tell you how many people think that that's okay. And that's
Like
just
someone
like
gets started with CrossFit and they're like, I'm going to WOD 4 times a day,
Yeah.
every day from the start.
that is exactly.
It's only gonna last so
that
long.
is exactly what it is. It's spending money you actually. I know. It's spending money you just don't have, or there's no money coming in and you're just spending the money.
Right.
You know,
Well, it's a lot of people are opening places now, and we've said this on other shows, but it's like they see these 10,000 square foot CrossFit gyms, and you probably the same. I had the privilege of standing in most of these gyms that were big and talking to the owners, and they all pretty much started in the garage, and then they got bigger and bigger, and now people come into it and they're like, I love CrossFit. I'm going to open a 10,000 square foot gym. They put themselves right at 10 to 15, maybe 20,000, depending on location, a month in. They have to pay their landlord. They invest and get debt for the equipment, and then they open the doors and they're like, and it's like, well, I can walk to the next CrossFit. You have no community build up, and I think that's one thing. Like
I have been close with. I'm close with quite a few very, very successful gyms. One being CrossFit Vancouver. Another that I'm very close with is San Francisco CrossFit. They have 5,000 square feet. They have over 400 members. They have a waiting list. They have a very clean facility. And they have 2 gym owners who are not spending their time there hardly at all.
Yeah.
You know, Kelly and Juliet pop in there. She runs the entire show, but they have people set in place. They have systems set in place so that they aren't doing. Granted, there were times they were working their brains out.
yeah, they didn't start there.
No, but neither of them was ever at a point where it was like we're just doing this one thing. I mean, Juliet was literally an attorney at Smith and Barney who was cranking out, and Kelly was literally at the gym and running a practice. And literally, I met Kelly when he was still at the Stone Clinic in San Francisco, which was an orthopedic place. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and Kelly was a PT out of this place. And he's doing that. He's also doing the gym, and I'm like, dude, you got to get out of here. Like, the world needs to not only know who you are, but you've got to get out and start doing your own seminar and teaching people what it is you know. And you know, I've seen the entire evolution of his revolution, and it's impressive because it's never been I'm glued to one thing all the time. Kelly has more shit going on than I do, and we used to have an analogy about him where it was like Kelly's like a cat running into a room with a dozen plates spinning around, but he's masterfully not dropping any of them.
I think it's important though, even if someone is looking at opening a gym or owns a gym and they say to themselves, all I want to do is train, like I don't want these other projects, they still have to understand that training 14 to 16 hour days will lead to them not wanting to train.
Yes.
I don't know anyone who trains that much who has done it more than a year, maybe a year and a half. It seems that people can grind for about that long, like nonstop, nothing else matters, and then they hit that wall. At that point, they usually just go, boom, I'm like completely
18 months,
out.
I blew up.
Yeah.
At 18 months, I was like, I left the gym in the hands of an intern and went to Hawaii for a week.
That's
And I was like, I gave him no direction. I'm like, here's the key.
that's probably the limit of your adrenals being set off is like 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're in fight or flight for 18 straight months. So,
There you go.
you know, it's your choice. But I think these gym owners just get into a place and they don't understand. And it's like, look, give up some of the control. Give somebody the ability to step up as a manager and even manage things, or bring somebody in to handle the finances, which can be cheap if done right.
Especially nowadays, you know, with all the different services and the availability of online people. Like, you don't even need a team there. You can have a virtual accountant and a virtual CPA. Like, you don't have to have people coming into the gym, and you pay for what they work. It's not full time for them. So there's a lot of options for people to leverage. I just think if they want to stay fresh, stay excited, they have to do that from the very beginning. Like, they have to get up every day and be like energetic towards like legitimately, not like forcing themselves. And the way to do that is to understand, okay, like I have a capacity, and me and Mike say, honestly, most people 4 to 6 hours is about as much as they can give a day, like full on, like all out. Like, and if you do that 5 days a week, you're going to need some time out.
Well, I think
a lot of
some of
people
that has
don't
to
do
do
that.
with what kind of job you have. So if you're in a job that requires a lot of creativity, I think that's actually shorter. You've only got like 4 to 6 hours in you. If you have a job that's a little more mechanical in nature, like, you know, if this and that type of work, then I think you've got a little bit longer. I mean, they've actually done studies on this.
But that high energy, like as a coach,
creativity is the first thing that that goes when you're tired.
With a coach, like to me, to have a successful community, like you have to come in with that energy and control. You're controlling the group.
Yeah.
And even at some point, like the group 15, 20, you start looking at needing someone else in there just to help manage that group. So if you're doing it all yourself all the time.
I mean, I went from being a happy gym owner to like people would not want to see me because I was just this ball of fire that came in just like so, and like a client did something wrong. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and it's like, how did I get to this point?
Yeah,
like,
you don't say that to your clients.
Yeah, no. But I mean, I had clients that were like, dude, you are miserable. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I got to change this, and that's the thing. I don't think. I think people should actually get to a point to where it's like, okay, this is pretty stressful. This is like I'm maxing out. That's your failure. Okay, let's learn from this right now. Let's make something happen out of that.
Yeah, I do think it's good to push boundaries.
Certainly. I wouldn't be where I'm at.
See what it's like when you just totally bonk.
Yeah, Aaron and I were just talking about this. It's like I came up with this. I'm like, I actually feel like most of the time I see the world in slow motion because I'm going so fast that it's like I see it going slower than me, and I'm like, fuck, you got to speed up. We got to go harder. And it's like some people get pretty intimidated or scared of being around us or in the circle. Not you guys, but it's like, and the same thing I've seen with starettes, with even this group. It's like, dude, there are going to be certain people who will just get spun out and spit out because they just can't go that hard. But the fact is you got to be able to notch it up correctly so that you're not trying to step up too high and just burn yourself out where it's like just...
And you can grow your system, you can grow your business strategically really well without burning yourself out. But if you think you're going to improve your business by just going harder, you have to go. There's no harder. There's only smarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you might be able to double your income by going harder, but I mean, you want to multiply your income by 10 times. You have to now be smarter. Harder doesn't work anymore.
But it's like, I mean, and I talked about this week. It was like I have paid myself a shit ton of money before. And I have paid myself a moderate amount of money, and I've paid myself very little. The difference is that anything that was below moderate, I was much happier. Like, it ain't about making more money. Like, it's not about that. Like, you're going to get to a point where there's just not enough money that's going to satisfy your soul. And you're going to be like, oh, okay.
I want to figure out where that is, though.
Well, I think I'm there. I think I'm pretty much there. I mean, I've literally hit that place where I'm like, hey, I'm comfortable with what I'm making. I could make a little more. It doesn't matter, but I just want to save it or invest it or do something with it.
But when your decisions aren't controlled by the monetary outcome, that's when things seem to get easier. Like when your decisions are just to move people forward, like with business or with training, or when it's just to help others, like the money just seems to come. And you said you got burnt out on training, but you still train people. It's not like you don't train anyone. You're just
most of the people I actually
train.
Yeah, and most of the people I actually train are free. It's almost like a Louis Simmons system where it's like because of what everything else is that's happening and generating revenue, I don't have to sit there and charge $400 an hour to train somebody.
And you can choose who you're training with. Much easier because you're not depending on that income.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You watch, he's going to get like tons of email now from people being like, "Hey, can I come train with you for free?"
We're actually, Aaron kind of came up with something where we're gonna. I think we're gonna get something started where we're gonna like make it an open place where athletes can actually come out, train with us for like a week on a fairly, something financially that's viable to do.
And it's like week-long training camps or something?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
for
legit.
like, 5 or 6 people and like have them get the total dosing of what it is we've done and how we've done it. And I mean, her success alone speaks with what we do. But my style of
coaching. Sounds like a $10,000 package to me.
No.
per person per day.
There's the business side of the podcast coming into play.
Yeah, but I think there's just so many things you can do, and that if you can get to a point to where you understand how to make money, and that when you're doing what it is you love to do, that money just starts kind of coming in, and you don't realize, oh shit, that's a lot of money that's coming in now.
I think that's
like once you have enough money, it's all about like people, experiences, and freedom. Those are the things that are going to make you happy once you're making decent money. Making more money, that's good. It gives you opportunity to hire more people, do more projects, and do more cool stuff.
Yeah.
But the cool stuff that you're doing is just what I said before about creating new relationships with people that you want to meet, having awesome experiences, and then having the freedom to kind of do whatever the hell you want all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
I think,
That's what we're trying to do all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of set at salaries that make us happy, and then the rest goes into growing the business and doing cool things with the business, because
Yeah.
the business is so much fun for us. And
Yeah,
so like
certainly.
now we've gotten to the point where like, okay, we all make enough money. Like the amount of money I make isn't restricting very much.
Yeah.
Like unless I want to go just rent a helicopter and fly around, that would be. I can't
Fun.
do that.
Well, we
Can't? What about the shrug copter? We talked about this.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get the shrug
Wow.
copter soon.
So I mean,
We'll put it in the shrug cave.
essentially that's what we did. We rented that ranch for last week. We had everyone out for the mastermind,
yeah.
and we had some of the leaders in the community come out to network with us and take time out of the business to really figure out, okay,
And that was some of the most fun I've had.
right. But it was all focused on how do we operate in our unique genius more, and that's what we talk about, like doing
Yeah.
what you love. And you hear that so much, like so many business advisors from any field. All of the people out there that talk about this. That's the number one thing they say: find what you love and do that. And I think what happens is, like with a gym owner, they love to train people, but then they don't understand that like opening a gym to train people is like, your job owns you. And so you go from working a normal work hour to like 3 times what a normal person does, and then the love disappears. And I think it's what it is getting back to doing what you love. I think everyone knows what it is they love. And if just when they were like, even look at when they were a kid or a teenager, like they know what they love, and then somewhere along the line someone told them they should do more than that. And if people just go back to doing the one thing they love and then figuring out how to build a business around that, and the internet has proven you can pretty much build a business around anything.
I was gonna say that's the key to that. That's the piece that people leave out. It's that the do what you love and money will come. That's not the whole picture at all. You gotta do what you love and that you happen to be really good at, and then put people in place for the whole entire rest of the business to do all the other stuff that needs to get done, so you can stick with what you're good at
But I mean, like,
and that you have passion for.
Exactly. You can so when you get good at something, you can love to do that. And I got really good at training people, and I blew up with the running thing, right? People would tend to believe that I'm just some running coach, like I'm just some guy who teaches running mechanics or understands endurance. But the fact is literally that has nothing to do with why I'm doing what I'm doing. Zero. That's just been the medium for expressing what it is I actually do feel love for, which is I want to get people to realize they could be so much better than what they are. And literally I see the dysfunction in what it is they do. And so it's like I see what you're doing to yourself right now, and you're not paying enough attention to what it is you're doing, and I can help you understand that, so that there's literally a part of your life that has just like click, oh, why am I doing that? Why would I want to destroy my knees, or like I'm in pain running and now I'm not in pain and it feels almost effortless? And it's like, yeah, that's what movement is. It should feel like that. Now, granted, putting a barbell on your back and it's a different thing that I'm talking about. Like pain is the result.
Oh, there's nothing healthy about what I did.
No. But
I would never say to someone,
what I'm talking
"Shit,
about though is like pain is the result of violating the principles of nature. And we as a species have and this is even with the way we work out. It's like we think we are this strong, powerful thing, and we are nothing. And if we think we're something, let's just jump into a cage with a lion. Or let's jump into a cage with a gorilla who's never lifted weights or ran for sport or fought anything other than its own speed. And it's like, dude, you wouldn't last 3 fucking seconds.
I honestly think the gorillas are out there in the jungle. They got the gym set up and
Right?
they're pushing the logs and they're
it's
like body weight
you've
movements.
got animals that like you pay attention to cheetahs or lions, and it's like I've literally gotten enamored with things like that, where it's like a cheetah really only runs every 3 days. It sprints every 3 days. Is that weird? That it runs 60 miles an hour every 3 days? Or is it I'm paying attention enough to how fast I just went and how much I'm hurting, so that I actually take enough time before I actually get up and run and have to kill something again to do something? and that becomes a survival instinct, and it's something we've lost as a species, I think. And this leads into things like obesity, like depression. Like we can run down the line with what these things are.
We put so much pressure on us to perform, and it's like if you fall short, then you just got to go harder.
Exactly.
Like there is a point where it's like, chill.
I'm going to go through the wall, and I'm just going to keep going. I can keep working through that. And I see a bunch of kids doing that right now, and it's like, I'm like, dude, this isn't going to last. And I will get demonized for saying things like that because people want to think I'm some sort of like dream killer. And it's like, no, there's a better way. Like you could do this, but you're going to need to be smarter about it and understand things about it.
I think that's why most people start their business, because they're doing something, and there's a problem, and they go looking for a solution, and there's no solution, and there's a better way to do this, and I think that's how we continually move forward in this industry, especially those things that we can do this better. Those things are like changing people and then changing their families and then the generations to come. Like, we are in one of the most powerful industries to create change. And I think that's why I love encouraging people when they have an idea. Like, I want people to follow that burning desire to create a difference, because I think that if they follow that and they make people better, whether it's through training, whether it's through supplements, whether it's through a meal prep company like a lot of people are starting, whether it's through creating some kind of community to hold people accountable. These things are making drastic change to us as humans. It's not just a little thing to make your life easier. Yeah. Like, these are things to like change. And I think that is why in this industry it's so awesome to see so many people now getting into entrepreneurship and trying their hand at doing something to help the world.
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things from the entire mastermind over the last couple of days that our friend Will said was, we were talking about having a vision for the future, and he said that his vision for the future was 20 years from now, if you had a job where you didn't like it, people would look at you like, you have a job you don't like? Like, who does that anymore? And I thought that was the coolest thing that was said all weekend.
Absolutely.
Like that,
100%.
As soon as he said that, I was like, it's embarrassing we didn't all say that.
Like, that was something that I could really get behind. Like, trying to find a way to make more companies like our company, where everyone in our company loves to be there because they're in their unique ability. They're doing something that they're passionate about, and they're doing something that they're good at. And so every day isn't like going to work. It's fun. They like it, and they're good at it.
It's what you do.
It's just like
you wake up and you live
this
your
is
life.
our generation. This is our generation that's literally changed this. And so we've got about half of our generation that's still doing shit they don't like, or things they think they need to do in order to make a lot of money or whatever.
Things they think they like. They've never done anything they actually enjoyed, and they're like, no, this job's good.
They all think we're on vacation.
And so it's like we get our parents and our grandparents who are like, you're on vacation. Like, that's what vacation's called. And it's like, yeah, pretty much. That is what we do.
They don't think it's possible that you can have a job that you enjoy.
Yeah.
It's by definition something you're not supposed to like. They don't understand how to. Some entrepreneurs, especially older entrepreneurs, as you pointed out, suggesting that our parents are the people that don't understand this stuff. But that's carried over to this generation as well. A lot of people still don't think that you're supposed to have fun and enjoy your job. And I really think that is 100% possible in almost every company, and that's up to the entrepreneur to know how to select the right people for the culture, and then the right person for each individual role within the company. And it's not your fault if you're in a company and someone's trying to get you to be the fucking graphic designer, and you have no idea how to do it, and you're not really a creative person, and you would rather be doing accounting. Like, those are extreme examples and whatnot. But
that does happen.
But that shit happens. It usually happens the other way. It's the creative person that's stuck doing a very monotonous role, and they think that, well, at work I do this because I need money, and then when I go home I get to be creative and do the fun stuff, not knowing that there's an opportunity to get a job where they enjoy it.
And that's an education system issue too, because you spend 12 years of your life being put in this box where creativity is discouraged, and like only left brain activity is encouraged. Like, remember going through school, it was like, if you're not good at math, you're dumb. If you're not good at science, you're dumb. If you're not good at regurgitating information, you're dumb. Yeah. So you force yourself and you exhaust yourself. For me, I was exhausted my whole life. I look back on like all the math that I did well. I got A's. But like
that shocks me. I'm kidding.
I put the majority of my effort into learning math. Like, almost, it was like, read the history book one time, did my writing work one time, English, whatever, got the math.
Stuff you
the
were
rest
good
of
at.
the fucking day, I'm going, oh.
Yeah, and that's
And
wild.
I thought I was dumb when I was really, now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, I'm just
And the stuff
creative.
you were good at, you neglected. You
Look
neglect
at-
the stuff you're good at
Exactly.
to focus on the stuff you're not
Exactly.
good at.
Look at school. You go to school, high school, or even elementary school, grammar school, or junior high. Your art classes are either you're drawing, you're in wood shop, or you're what else? Like, there's not much. So
I'll take it all out.
yeah, between those two things, that's what we've deemed to be art.
and you're almost,
That's all you got.
you're almost
That's
considered
all.
a slacker for taking them.
Yet everyone
Yeah.
exactly.
You
Yes.
are.
No, you're right.
You are.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. And literally every one of us is our own artist. And it's how we have the ability to create and do something and manifest this whole thing into whatever it is you want, whether you're taking running or you're taking, a podcast, and this is going to be my medium for expressing how I feel about the world and I want
Yeah.
change to happen.
Yeah.
And that is an art form to do that. And people don't, they're finally getting onto it. And back to AJ's point about being in the fitness industry I actually believe we are in the most powerful industry that will exist here in the next 10 years. I think we will be controlling probably the majority of what is happening in this world.
Yeah, because people
The
actually
need's
have
only getting stronger.
Yeah, the need is
only going up.
especially with baby boomer now about to fucking just go da-doosh,
Well,
and now
especially-
everybody's going to be geriatric.
Yes, the United States, the wealth is high.
Yep.
People are living lifestyles that have never been lived in all of history. So wealth, people are kind of figuring out the money thing.
Yeah.
And so, that's getting handled to enough of a degree. And I think people are now, going, okay, what's the other thing I can improve? And health is the next easiest thing. The last thing out of health, wealth, and relationships are the toughest thing.
And that's what you see.
They got the wealth down, they'll get the health down, and then eventually they'll move to relationships.
But I find people in our industry, and I think to Brian's point, I think we, and obviously the people we masterminded with this week, the people we're connected to outside of this, most people are trying to rock the education system, rock the relationship.
Yeah.
I think the people in the health industry are like, you know what? Like, we're not just health coaches. We're not just fitness coaches. Like, we are responsible for a human being.
Yeah.
And when someone comes to us through that, health means wealth, relationships,
Yeah.
mindset, stress. And I think we've talked about it a lot. Integrated health and fitness, I think you're going to see a lot changing. And I think at the end of the day, we will be the leaders in the world for a lot of this stuff.
Certainly.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a good place to call this at the end. So head over to barbellbusiness.com, sign up for the newsletter, give us a 5-star review. BMAC, where can people go to find your stuff?
CrossFitEndurance.com, 3Fuel, 3FU, 3L.com. I am on Instagram and Twitter, both at I Am Unscared. Facebook, Brian Mackenzie. And, Athlete Cell for any programming inquiries.com.
Yeah.
Almost as long as the intro. All right.
And next show, we got Christmas coming up.
Oh.
So if you are around next week, Christmas is going to be on the show, but she's all blown out on the camera. Can't even see her.
Focus the light, bro. She's just beaming light.
Awesome.
All
Thanks
right,
for
good deal.
joining
Thanks,
us.
Brian.
Yeah,
Thanks,
boys.
Join the conversation every week after the episode over at barbellshrug.com. This is also where you'll find new episodes of Barbell Shrugged, Technique Wad, Nuggets and Pearls, Barbell Business, Get Change, plus new articles every day on our daily blog, written by us, guests of the show, and some of the biggest names in strength and conditioning. So, go there and leave a comment now. Oh my gosh, wow, that's so cool. Yay, that's so awesome.
Did you like this video? If so, subscribe to our channel and share this with your friends.
And if you want even more free, awesome resources to help you reach your fitness goals, plus some updates that we only share over email, head over to barbellshrug.com and sign up for the newsletter.